Hello family! Our anime starts with a teenager debating whether or not to steal a snack from a grocery store. We later learn that his name is Mirai. He is on the ledge of a towering building when he exclaims, minutes before falling to the ground, that all he ever wanted was to be happy. A girl with wings saves him. When he claims she shouldn't have interfered, she reveals that she is an angel and tells him that he is still alive. She claims she was only trying to make him happy. She knows everything about his past, including how his entire family died when he was 7 years old, and how he was abused by his aunt and uncle who took him in. As he contemplates his life, the angel informs him that she is a high-ranking angel who has come to give him hope. She then gives him the option of choosing freedom, represented by her wings, or love, represented by the angel's arrow. A red arrow. She reveals that the wings would allow him to travel anywhere and move quicker than the human eye can track. The angel's arrow, on the other hand, will cause anyone who is struck by it to fall completely in love with him. He can't decide, so he requests both. She agrees, much to his amazement. The angel then gives Mirai the talents in the form of a necklace and an armband that only other individuals with angels can see. He tries out his wings and is able to appreciate the beauty of his surroundings for the first time. Later, the angel informs Mirai of the options open to him now that he has powers. She claims he can control anyone with his arrow and steal anything he desires absolutely undetected due to the speed of his wings. He compares it to the devil thinking about horrible crimes, but she replies there is no devil, and if there were, they would be in people's hearts. She mentions Mirai, his aunt and uncle, as an example, much to his surprise. She explains that they were the ones who murdered his family and pretended it was an accident. He has a hard time believing this, so she suggests he utilize his skills to find out for himself. Mirai returns home and finds his aunt reclining on the couch, where he utilizes his red arrow to make her fall in love with him. He declines her advances and wonders if she and his uncle murdered his family. She admits to doing it, but she blames Mirai as her uncle. She reveals that they did it to inherit a large sum of money. As his uncle, Mirai, enters the room, he recalls a fight between his aunt and uncle at his last interaction with his family. Mirai cries angrily that the two of them should die for their crime. Being under the red arrow's influence, he continues to write, taking a knife and killing her. He is in shock because he misjudged the potency of the red arrow, but the angel tells him not to worry because she deserved it for what she had done. Mirai goes to summon an ambulance, but it is too late since an angel arrives to take her away. This recalls his mother reminding him that the purpose of life is to find happiness. He realizes that he must pursue pleasure not only for himself, but also for his deceased family. Finally, his angel presents herself as Nas has gone 3 days without using his abilities. He is impoverished, but vows he will not use his powers to harm others because it will not make him happy. He expresses a more regular form of bliss, and Nas says she will assist because her only objective is to make him happy. He begins to consider how he will obtain money, and Nas suggests that he murder his uncle and his uncle's children for the inheritance that they earned unfairly. He becomes irritated when she nonchalantly mentions murder. She then informs him of another arrow he can use. It's the white arrow, and it can instantly kill everyone it hits. She informs him that these are only granted to high-ranking angels and gods. She goes on to say that there are 13 god candidates like him on Earth, each with their own personal angel. One of the 13 will be chosen to replace God. We are shown the time when the current god talked to the chosen 13 high-ranking angels somewhere in the universe. She informs him that it is time for him to abdicate his reign and that it is their job to carry out this tradition. The discussion concludes with him informing them that they have 999 days to finish the job. Back in the present, Mirai doubts his abilities to become God, but Inase reassures him that he should do it for his own happiness. He remembers his mother telling him that true happiness is gained when everyone around you is happy. Mirai then decides that he will never use the lethal white arrow again and will discontinue using the red arrow after forcing an uncle to confess to the murder of his family. Inase would like to put the plan into action right away, but Mirai insists on meeting the deadline for high school applications. Then they hear on the news that a movie star named Mr. Rodriguez has an angel watching over him. The new narrative revolves around the actor's relationship with 5 ladies at the same time. Mirai uses the red arrow to determine that he is one of the selected. Nas claims that he will still be able to shoot additional women because they can only control 14. Mirai is anxious and inquires whether there is a method to halt the arrows. She informs him that only those with wings will be able to outrun the arrows. People who have already been hit by the red arrow cannot be hit again, and the effects wear off after 33 days. In the following scenario, We witness Mr. Rodriguez using his red arrow as effectively as he does his hair. He claims that it has given him a new lease on life. A masked individual in armor then opens the door of his car. Mr. Rodriguez is taken aback as he sees the disguised figure utilize a white arrow before being slain. The masked man departs after his death, and the women are released from the enchantment after applying for admissions. He returns home to study for the entrance exam when he learns that Mr. Rodriguez has been murdered. Murai has already been accepted to high school. We discover after a few days. Use the red arrow to make his uncle confess and purchase a condo with his stolen fortune. Nas wonders why he isn't happier, and he explains it's because he is afraid of losing control of the great authority he has been granted. As they pass by the bank, they hear that it is being robbed and that multiple hostages are being held hostage, as well as shots being fired inside the building. The formerly mentioned man in armor appears. He is shown to be a man named Metropole. He uses his wings and arrows to persuade the cops to let him take command, and recognizes right once that he is one of the selected god candidates. The Metropolitan employs all of his authority to overcome the robbers and liberate the hostages. He takes advantage of the spotlight to speak with any other contenders who may be observing. He informs them that they are all his opponents and that he has already defeated one in order to escape detection. Murai tells Nas to leave and walks home by himself. Later, Murai demands that his god candidate status be revoked, but Nas tells him that if he does, he would lose his powers, which will kill him. They then explore the distinction between angels' rank, and 3 angels have colored arrows as well as wings. The first rank has simply red arrows and wings, while the second tier has either red arrows or wings. Murai is recommended by Nas. I stayed indoors for the time being, despite the fact that it meant he would miss his high school graduation ceremony. Murai refuses to conceal because he understands that hiding will never bring him happiness. Murai had to go to school the next day when the all-knowing Nas suggested he kill his crush, Saki. With his red arrow, he becomes even more ashamed when she adds she knows Saki is the reason he chose that particular institution. He refuses to force her to love him and departs. Later, when he arrives at school, an angel is hovering in the sky. He assumes that if he acts normally, he will go unnoticed because Nas is not around. However, the angel came before him as soon as he sensed Nas's reaction to seeing him. When we inquired, the angel's companion indicated that his candidate was standing just behind him. When he turns to check who is behind him, he is surprised to see Saki. She identifies him and shoots him with a red arrow. He believes the arrow has no effect on him because he already has feelings for her. Her angel then directs her to urge him to go to her house and desperately wait for her in the mirror. He accepts and takes off immediately. Murai's heart is pounding as he eagerly waits in Saki's chamber. She arrives later, accompanied by her angel. Right, clearly under the influence of the red arrows, the angel urges Saki to ask various questions about Murai's angel's powers. The angel then informs him that because Saki lacks wings, she cannot avoid arrows to protect herself. She asks Murai for permission to use his wings. They decide to try flying together and must connect their armbands while flying. He observes something disturbing her and inquires what's wrong, but she insists that she must deal with it on her own. She did, however, state that she was relieved to speak with him again after such a long time. They eventually learn from the news that Metropolitan will be on TV later. Saki's angel informs him of Metropolitan Man's plan to pose as a hero in order to attract the attention of the other contenders. He warns Saki that he will go after him soon. Murai decides to pursue Metropolitan before he can flee, but is stopped by Nas, who informs him that he is being misled. She claims that when candidates are killed, they can absorb skills from one another, and that Saki's angel Ravel was hoping that his or Metropolis Man's death would result in Saki obtaining wings. He still wishes to leave, but changes his mind when Saki encourages him to stay. Revel is concerned that Murai may harm Saki once the enchantment has worn off. Revel claims he would never do something like this because he has always had affection for her. Revel agrees to trust the two in exchange for their trust in them. Revel then asks Murai to live with Saki until a new boyfriend is found, to which Murai agrees. We later see Metropolitan in his home after stopping another criminal. He expresses his impatience with waiting for other people to arrive to his angel. He concludes that they are all simply terrified of being killed and chooses to adopt a different approach. 33 days later, we see Nas demonstrating to the rebel that, although Murai is no longer affected by the red arrow, he still has deep feelings for Saki. They certainly are. Then, according to the news, a Metropole resident has altered his tone, declaring that he no longer wishes to kill the candidates and instead wishes to find peaceful alternatives. The gang is not duped and sees through his scheme. Metropolitan concludes the show by inviting the contestants to a popular stadium. Revel says they should just stay and watch it on TV, but Mirai insists on him leaving. Mirai later comes to the stadium and runs into Saki. She warns him not to look up at the angels in the sky and then connects armbands in case they do. "I'd love to attend mass race." He recalls seeing that on television. As the meeting time approaches, the throng grows. A countdown clock, the Metropolitan comes, but is quickly followed by two more in armor, both with wings and arrows. Mirai is taken aback to observe Metropolitan not utilizing his wings and showing no symptoms of fear. Metropolitan is struck by the blue-armored candidate's arrow. The arrow strikes him, but it is unable to penetrate his armor. This is how our anime ends. Leave us a comment on how you found this anime recap. See you in the next anime recap.